I just, this is Papa Ken. I just wanted to get on, give a little bit, share a little bit, and dip. But hopefully everybody's holiday, Thanksgiving was okay, whether you celebrated or not. Um, Also, I wanted to give my thanks and my shout outs to all the ones that were concerned. Basically, I had a little mishap with um, some medication, but other than that, I'm okay. Thank y'all for checking up. I really do appreciate it, and yeah. Well, my Thanksgiving was okay. I was able to really just spend time with my folks, and man, we had a ball. We had a ball. We really had a ball. It was something that I take pride in because I'm used to that. Because normally when me and my folks get together, um, it's usually something that we all need therapeutically. So that was that, and yeah. So what I wanted to get on here today about is mental health check-in. As we are leading into the colder months, I kind of realized, as a cycle, even me personally, a lot of people, especially if you're spiritually inclined, if you're clairaudient, you're, if you see things, clairsentient, clairvoyant, all that. A lot of people go through things a lot more when it comes to the holidays. And some people really don't know how to express themselves, no less. And that's what tends to make the energy a little bit more thicker or a little bit more potent because, as we gearing up for, I think to me, one of the most potent energies when it comes to any type of zodiac would probably be Capricorn around this time. Capricorn, and Capricorn deals with Saturn, and Saturn is the crone mother. Saturn deals with death, a lot of depression, restriction, and having to put things in delays and putting things on the back burner. Usually it's more delayed. It's more hardworking energy. And not that it's a bad planet, but usually you have to put the work in when it comes to Saturn. And that's why they call Saturn um, the patriarchal planet because it deals with the father. And in my experience, even when I look through some of my astrological placements, um, a lot of things came up growing. I'll say this growing up. A lot of things that I wasn't able to understand, or a lot of the things that I wasn't able to really just grasp on a masculine level, was probably because I had I think I have a bad um, placement when it comes to my Saturn. Now I'm not gonna go in depth, but I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's kind of tricky with me and Saturn. But anyway, um, a lot of people deal with mental health in various different ways. And like I was saying last year, what caused me to take my mental health a little bit more serious. I recently, I was at a job that I was there for like maybe like a good three, 2, 3, 4 years maybe, and I was so used to that job. I might have hated it. I'm gonna be honest. I might have hated it. I hated that fucking job, but I just needed something to hold on to. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to a 9 to 5, like everyday living situation. So one of the things that happened was the fact that I was already depleted of resources. Now I'm not gonna go in depth into what, but it was getting to the point to where it was getting a little bit too much. And to me, I'm the type of person that, if something is not working, I'll try my best to really just go along with it. But nowadays, now that I'm getting older, because I'm 30, um, a lot of the times, well, also, in astrological terms, before you hit 30, sometimes a lot of people will go through this thing we call Saturn retrograde, Saturn return. I'm so sorry, Saturn return, and it's usually the critical moment to where you make your decisions based on adulthood, moving forward, learning who you are as an individual and your wants and needs. But however, that doesn't come easy. It comes with a lot of lessons. And from personal experience with dealing with Saturn around this time, that's when I dealt with a lot. I had to, for one thing, I had to deal with the job and and its hardships. And one thing I noticed when it came around this time, like last year or year before last, when I had my Saturn return, is that I did not know that I was very depressed. I did not know that I was depressed, and usually this is around the time when a lot of people are depressed or when they kind of go through it because of their emotions. It's colder. The seasons are colder, and a lot the sun isn't really just as I wouldn't say active, but it's not really as beneficial. I'm trying to put it in words. How the sun would be. I wouldn't say conducive, but it's a lot more harder to receive the sun's energy when it comes to colder months. And I didn't know that I really dealt with that until last year. So um, I remember just being, whenever I would get off, um, I wouldn't I wouldn't go out. I would be a lot more grumpier, and this kind of rings true because I have Saturn in my sixth house. I have a stellium in Capricorn, which that means you have more than one planet in your natal chart. So dealing with that, I didn't notice how easy it was for me to really get depressed and really to think things on a more pessimistic way. And that kind of made things a little worse when I actually lost the job that I was at. And when you're there, it's cool now because I learned to accept things as it is. Um, that job or the reason why your mental health usually declines. But um, around that time, I was thinking on what I could do for my family. I wanted to give gifts. I wanted to show people that it's the holidays. I'm usually more jollier around this time, but like I said, as I got older, a lot of my patience began to decline. So I dealt with that, and as a healing aspect, Saturn's not necessarily the big, you know, um, classical baby eater that we see in occultic books. It's really just a hard-working planet, and it's the oldest planet, as most occultists would say. And the greatest lesson that you'll get out of Saturn is if you do the work, you will see the benefits, you will see the reward, you will see the blessings, but you have to do the work first. A lot of people don't even mess with Saturn when it comes to even, I guess when people deal with a lot of high occultic magic, they don't even deal with Saturn because I guess they fear it. And I'm not gonna lie, at some point I was kind of afraid of it myself, but I had to realize that that is in my chart, and I had to deal with it. I had to deal with shadow work, I had to deal with some of the things that I didn't want to open up to the surface. Um, Certain things about my father I had to realize and accept and come to an understanding about my own masculinity with Saturn because, like I said, Saturn deals with the father. And I really had to go into depth with that. It was a lot last year, and the thing that I mentioned in a live prior, a couple lives prior to this is the fact that when my mental health declined, I didn't really notice, or I might have took it in small pieces, and I kept trucking, I kept moving, and I tried to keep myself afloat. Mentally, that's not good because a lot of the times you see people around this time they try to buy, they try to do things for their children, and usually that's not how it goes spiritually because this is a time where things are the season wise. This is the time where things are a little bit. We deal with death in a sense. As the tree leaves, they tend to die. Um, and this is all for a reason because of the cycle of Earth. And usually around this time is when Saturn is approaching or when we get to the colder months, it's leading us to go within and for us to really deal with what's underneath or the shadows or some things that we tend not to deal with. Um, and me and shadow work, I'm a I guess you can say I'm a big advocate when it comes to shadow work, but I don't talk about it. But I guess I never really had the courage to really just be more open about it. At some point, I can say subconsciously, I might have been afraid of shadow work myself. And dealing with things that's in the past or um, certain things that really get to you mental wise, if you don't deal with it, it will come up. So that's just life. If you don't deal with things, it will come up to the surface, and I won't say it will bite you in the ass, but if you tend to ignore it long enough, it will. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people, as you see in the spiritual community, when it deals with Saturn or shadow work, that we kind of go forward with it because um, you need balance in everything. You need balance in everything, and one of the things that'll help you is learning to accept the the darker sides of you, some of the things that you wouldn't necessarily tell the next person, things when it comes to living or just being open and honest. And Saturn really deals with that, and it dealt, I had to deal with it. And, like I said, moving on, but, so I was at a job that I wasn't really just happy about, and, um, I can do anything I want. Actually, I emotionally and mentally what could happen on the negative aspect versus the positive. And looking back, I'm glad that I kind of went through it. But as a reminder to myself and a lot of people that deal with mental issues, um, this is around a time where you're gonna need your family. You're gonna need the most closest thing to your heart. Start journaling a lot more. Go out. Even you know even as it's cold now, I'm a and I was born in the colder months. I'm an Aquarius, aqua gang. But for some reason, I always hated the cold weather, and I don't know. But for some reason, as I started to deal with Saturn and even Scorpio, as we're just leaving that mansion, maybe a day or so ago, I'm learning to embrace the colder months, and because Scorpio dealt with death. And I had to, I really had to deal with grieving from, like I said, a person that I was very close with, and that kind of showed me the way to embrace the unknown. Even, and like I said, even as an example, going outside in the cold. Like I said, I'm a January baby. Now, normally you would think because you're a January baby, or a colder, more in the colder months, you would embrace it. I actually hated the colder weather, and I could not deal with it. But now I'm getting a little bit more used to the colder weather. To me, it's much more relaxing, and much more relaxing. And now that I can get my peace, because I was still living at home with my mom, and even in anyone that's close to me that can tell you, Spirit would always give me that message like, look, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to move. It's time for you to do this. It's time for you to do that. And I was like, or those certain emotions will come up like, I wish I had my own, or I was working toward getting that, and it was a rough road to really deal with. That's something that you're going to need when it comes to healing. You're going to need isolation. You're going to need to be by yourself. You're going to need to really stick with yourself. Trust your instincts and trust spirit. That way you can get the messages that you need. That way you can get the therapeutic energies surrounded by you. That way you can heal. And even me as a cultist or spiritualist, I would always, um, I'm a homebody, right? Now I like going out sometimes, and usually I kind of I deal with things on outside levels. It really depends. But when it comes to isolation and being by myself, I really had to realize that I wasn't good with being alone. And I think that's one of the traits for Saturn is being alone, or alone, being like a loner. I'll give y'all an example. Like Mary J. Blige, she's a Capricorn, right? And that energy that she expresses through her music, that's Capricorn all day, and that's Saturn. And I think she's a Saturn sun. I forgot her chart, but that's what the energy that I kind of get with when it comes to the colder months. When we lead up to Capricorn. And hi, Mark. How are you? That's what we kind of lead to when it comes to Saturn, and dealing with the mental. Now, like I said, a lot of people don't really realize that they're depressed. I didn't even realize I was that depressed last year, up until when I lost my job. And one of the things that helped me, and this is not to really just bark on, but one of the things that helped me really was family. Even though that I needed to move, and spirit instructions were very clear that I had to move. Crystals help. This is selenite. Selenite deals with the moon, but it also deals with a lot of the positive energies that you need surrounded with you, and it absorbs a lot of the melancholic vibes that a person will feel, and they kind of just deals away with it. So that's why I keep a lot of selenite with it. I'm doing great. I love your channel. It really helps me on my path as a true-spirited man. I'm so glad of that. I'm so glad of that. I'm so glad of that. You're welcome. And thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. And even as that, as an example, when we, and even certain relationships, e- and even as a two-spirited person, a lot of us don't tend to really just deal with what we have inside on an individual basis, and sometimes that can lead to our delays when it comes to transformation. So spiritually, it can make things a little rough, especially when it comes to the colder months. So, like I said, one of the crystals that helped me mental health wise with selenite. Not only that, because I'm a Reiki master, and I have to keep it around me because it keeps me in a positive state. Let me see what else. What else helped me? Prayer, prayer. A lot of prayer work helped when I was dealing with what I was dealing with last year, as in hindsight, leading up to Capricorn energy or Saturn. Now Sagittarius, I love Sagittarius season. Shout out to all the Sagittarius out there. I know y'all birthdays are coming up. Um, you know, and I don't know. I guess I don't know why I didn't really just go with that that shout out first, but first shout out to all the Sagittarius out there. Their energy is fiery, and I love Sagittarius. I just love them. But that's the Capricorn and mental health. So one of the other things that helped me, like I said, was prayer. And when you pray for things, sometimes you really don't see it manifesting, and we tend to psych ourselves out thinking that it's not working. And that's one of the key and crucial things that'll mess us up spiritually if we're trying to manifest. Like we'll think like, oh, we're praying for a car, or we're praying for this, or we're praying for that, and we don't see it yet. That means that it's not working. No, it does not. Around this time is usually when we start praying, and I learned this myself. When we're praying for things, especially when it comes to the cycles of the earth, you got to think about it. What season we're leading into? We're leading into winter. Winter is the season of things dying out. Things are going to be moving a lot more slower. The things that you can pray for now, it will probably take work a lot more long term than it would be in springtime or summertime, because that's a lot more quicker energy. Let me read the comment. Something like does work. I have that on my altar for my ancestors and my spirits to manifest. So work. Yeah, a lot of the moon energy can help, especially when it comes to dealing with the emotions. And I was trying to find another crystal that I usually work with when it comes to dealing with mental, mental things. Amethyst. Amethyst is classic. Amethyst is classic for emotions, being at peace, being at rest, or just dealing with things on a mental or an emotional state. Um, I think I have like more than one piece, but amethyst really relaxes you, and it keeps you at in a balanced state, because amethyst deals with the third eye chakra. And a lot of the things that we deal with on a mental level, sometimes it don't even have to make sense. But amethyst will really give you clarity, especially if you meditate with it, or if you do a little bit of self care. It will give you that aid to really just deal with what you're dealing with. So not only that, selenite, amethyst, and rose quartz. I have rose quartz that I have with me now. Rose quartz, as we all know, is good for love, self love, but usually around this time is when you need it the most, because, like I say, a lot of people, and I'm getting this spiritually, we don't we don't really realize how bad it can get, especially on a mental health level. A lot of people that I've seen growing up, even now, that I kind of I wouldn't say isolated myself, but now that I've moved away from a lot of things, and I've grown past a lot of issues that I had to deal with in my life, I can tell that when a person is depressed, now I wouldn't say spiritually off that, but if I can feel it, I can feel it. But you can tell when people are going through things, because you can tell it in their face. And usually, if um, if you're a empath out there, for all my empaths out there, I know what you're feeling, because I usually when I'm around I guess you can say a depressed person, I kind of take on their energy, and I wouldn't say absorb it, but I kind of learn to really just do a self check first before letting people dump on me, because a lot of the issues that I had coming up, leading up to my depression, um, that was one of the reasons, because I was taking on so much, and Spirit would always tell me to take a break, or it's fine that you can rest this day, or it's okay that you don't know what's gonna happen next. Sometimes it's okay. I do want to leave that out. Sometimes it's okay you don't know what's gonna come next, or even if you know things may look a little bit hectic here and there. It's okay. Sometimes we have to. That's the crucial moment when you really need to learn how to trust spirit, because we can't always lean on our own understanding at times, and that usually messes us up. And moving forward, getting into a lot of the mental afflictions that people on a global scale that one would tend to realize is most people didn't realize that a lot of people deal with schizophrenia more than depression, and it can manifest in different ways. Me, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. So I'll never forget it. When me and my talk about some of the issues that I had, it would always lead up to around these colder months. Like, well, what would happen around the holidays, or what would go on with transition. The seasons of transition. You know what I'm saying? Because winter is the energy of, like I said earlier, death, or things dying away, things of the past, moving, moving and clearing. That way we can bring a new, which is spring. And I never really noticed up until I got, maybe what, 29 or 30, that I took on a lot mentally. I really did. I took on a lot, and that's not good as a spiritualist. From experience, I'm gonna tell y'all that off bat. That's not good as a spiritualist. When you take on a lot, and when you deal with a lot of people's emotions and you try to work through them spiritually, it can really make or break you, especially if you don't know how to release it. And I'll be one of the few ones to tell you, I didn't know how to release those emotions. I didn't know how to release the things that would eat me up mentally or emotionally. And even through prayer work, or sometimes even with crystals. Um, Sometimes like I said, they're a great aid, but nothing's much more better than just really dealing with it and being open and honest about what you're dealing with on a mental and emotional level. And the reason comment, if I can see it, I was taking on others' emotions, energy as well. I was also not acknowledging my true spirit nature before I was diagnosed with depression. Yeah, that can make a break. That can make a break a person. It really can. And when you're, and I wouldn't even leave it as a two spirit, but when you're highly vibrated, or when you're just dealing with things on a high vibration, you have to acknowledge certain things, because if you don't, like I said, it will tend to manifest in your daily life. It will always come up, even if, like, say for an example, if you come to do a reading, it will come up in divination as, like, for an example, I'll say the moon card. The moon card deals with illumination, right? But one of the things about it is, if we're not open and honest about how we feel, usually that's deception, right? So that's the energy of the moon. Um, One of the things that we can always associate the moon with, um, on an individual level, is the older energy of the moon. They used to call the moon Luna, and on a mental health level, a lot of people that you see on TV that'll go off, that'll go crazy, you would call them lunatics, they would actually associate the moon with lunatics because the emotions are at its peak, and a lot of people aren't really just dealing with things on a balanced state. So the things that you see on TV, the things that you see on the news, when people actually go off like that, usually I wouldn't say that they're misdiagnosed, or sometimes they're not even diagnosed at all. But importantly, more so than not, usually it's a lot of things because they haven't dealt with things emotionally, and they haven't been honest, and they haven't dealt with things from shadow work or childhood trauma that they never really got past. You see what I'm saying? Let me read the comments. But when I began to talk to my ancestors and deal with my shadow, I was able to move forward. Exactly. Exactly. Ancestral work is also another great thing that helps when it comes to dealing with the mental health. And if you happen to go even further in your ancestral lineage, sometimes you can pinpoint certain things or certain traits that you got from your ancestors that you are carrying out now. Me, for an example, I have I wouldn't say I have a bad temper, but I would say that my Mars is in Gemini, and I didn't realize how angry I can be up until maybe this year, I'll say. And I really had to really deal with not being triggered, and going back, I remember there were certain instances, even with my ancestors, that I know, like at the top of the head, that I know that they probably dealt with the same thing. And usually, I'll give you an example. During the eclipse, we had an eclipse in Taurus. My moon is in Taurus, but it's also conjunct my Mars in Gemini. Well, not only did I receive a download from Spirit, it was also that I had a checkup, I'll say, with my deceased uncle. Now we always call him Uncle Dinky, and his name was Alfred. He dealt with a lot of things on a mental level, and I don't think he was diagnosed with depression or anxiety, but he was diagnosed, with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Now, if you can go back on that, you got to think about it. That's dealing with the mental. That, they'll seem, as a doctor would say, quote unquote, um, schizophrenic people, they usually feel paranoid, or they see things that aren't usually there. But me, coming from a spiritual standpoint, to me, I really believe that my uncle, he probably did see some things that not only traumatized him, but and I have to go to work soon, so I'm going to lay down, and please stay this live, and I'm grateful for the conversation and for you. Thank you so much. No problem. I'm gonna keep it as usual. But one person would say that just because they're diagnosed, they would say that on a mental health level that they don't see things spiritually, and usually that's not the case. I'm gonna be open and honest. That's usually not the case. Now, true enough, if you don't recognize it or if you don't really deal with it, it can affect you on a positive or a negative level. But like I was saying, I really do believe, before my uncle passed, he really saw things spiritually because not only was he a grand person in reality, but in spirit, as I begun to see, like when I got my download from the past eclipse, he's a very powerful warrior, very powerful. Which I tend not to really just call on him on things that are mundane. If I really have to call on my uncle, I will. But it really just goes to show me that even in spirit, you know, they're just the same. You know what I'm saying? But I was dealing with a lot recently, and like I said, when I had my download during the eclipse, Now I was preparing, I was preparing to really be up and just witness the eclipse, but I fell asleep, and thank God that I did, because had I not, I'd have never got that download. But you know, um, basically in the dream, um, I was doing things, and not only that, my uncle came and checked up on me. And the reason why I say that is because normally how he comes to me is to make sure that I'm okay. And I think, well, I ain't gonna say I think, I know at some point, and when I do, like, I guess I wouldn't really tell folks, or I would kind of keep it in, and I'm learning, as time go on. But it gave me a reminder that I'm still here. Never you. So as we are tending to lead into the colder months, and a lot of people are really trying to gain balance through the supplies and demands of the government, working a 9 to 5. Um, Ancestral work is one of the things that can help as well. Not only crystals, not only your prayer, but going to your ancestors and being open and honest about what you're dealing with on a mental level. That can help as well. You know, um, Checking in with yourself mentally. You know, it always that's always a great help. Meditation, I will say that. Now let me tell you, most people, I had this particular thinking when it comes to meditating, or getting into the zone of being uh, on a classical definition of meditation is to be at peace with the mind. Um, Usually, with a person, I'll say, like, for a person, for example, like ADHD. If you have ADHD, and I'm pretty sure I had this when I was coming up, but I never, we never really diagnosed. I was never really the type to say something's wrong with me, but growing up, I guess you can say a lot of people would always say that there's something wrong with him, or there's something, he's slightly touched or something like that. And that's not usually the case. It was more so because I'm not saying this to be bragging or cocky, but because I'm such a high spirited person, a lot of the things that I had to process, or I had to take in mentally or spiritually or physically or emotionally, a lot of people didn't really understand how I was processing it, or they really just wasn't paying attention, due to neglect, or things of that nature. And when it comes to meditation, what I've begun to realize is it's not necessarily about just sitting in one spot and being at peace. It's actually observing your thoughts and learning how to be, be in the present. That's really all meditation is learning to, even if you don't sit down, just learning to be in the present, and getting a state of peace in the mind. Now, although there will be things that come up, those things will help you even if you start to meditate, even in a classical level. You know what I'm saying? Another great thing to help with mental health is rest. Rest. Sometimes you need your rest. Um, I'm getting better, but at first, when I was as I was getting older, I would love to take naps and things of that nature. But nowadays, as I've gotten older, I've begun to realize how bad that I wouldn't be able to let myself rest. It's because of the mental. And a lot of the things that I can go back and forth with mentally, it can really make or break a person. But um, um, rest will really, really get you the things that you need, especially when you get older. I guess, I can say that since I'm in the 30 and up club now, um, doing things as you used to, it can really make or break your healing process. So going out, drinking, um, partying like you were 21, it really it's for the birds. That's bullshit. You know what I mean? So even when I was younger, because coming from the gay community, um, a lot of us, I guess now, I wouldn't know, I wouldn't know now, but coming up, I would always love to go out, especially when it comes to the clubs and just to be seen, just to be around music because I love music. I would love to be around a lot of the club scene. I'm a club kid. But now, as I kind of look up on my life, like now I just don't even like to be outside anymore. But I will if I have to. But as a I wouldn't say I did a review, but as certain things come up, mentally, or as I kind of go through my own healing processes, usually I kind of think on things. And growing up, I was a lot more lively growing up versus now. Not saying that I'm depressed now. I'm totally okay, but I really had to deal with a lot of things, and resting was one of the things that kind of helped me. Even now, like as I got older, it really helps me to gain more process and really to just let my body be at rest because um man, really, when you're younger, you will never realize when you get older and you begin to slow down, as your metabolism slows down, um, things as an adult, it becomes a little bit more serious. So, dealing with that on a mental level, it's not, it's not all bad, but learning to process it all, that's one of the things that really gives you a mental health check-in, being open and honest about yourself. Or, I wouldn't even say isolating yourself because that's not helpful. I will say that because I think I've done that in my time or two coming up, and I wouldn't say that's helpful. Isolation. I mean, as a planetary energy, I would leave that to Saturn, but mental wise, it's not good to isolate yourself. It's really not because you're all like if you're already dealing with something on a mental and physical, spiritual, and emotional level, and you're not able to release it, isolation won't do any good because it'll probably just eat you up even more. And that's probably one of the leading cases why we have so many people doing suicides, or even like people that's more on a, how I talked about the lunatic energy of the moon. That's how they kind of that that's how that kind of manifests. But you know um meditation. So I would agree, meditation helps. Prayer, some of your crystals. Like I said, amethyst, selenite, black tourmaline. Black tourmaline usually keeps at bay bad vibes, bad negativity. I'm trying to think of another crystal that I had. There was a crystal that I had maybe a good while ago. I think it was purple tourmaline, and they usually say that if I'll get this is lepidolite, by the way. Lepidolite deals with the heart chakra, and I had it for maybe like a good I might have had this crystal for maybe a good year or two. And but back to the purple tourmaline. Now they say if you had a crystal long enough and it's done its job, it'll usually disappear, and that's usually what it comes to. That's what usually happens with the purple tourmaline because it dealt with absorbing a lot of the negative energies that I was dealing with. It's it was a tumble stone. It was very small, but it was very powerful. And I just remember one day that I didn't have it, so I kind of led it up to saying like, okay, well, spirit must have thought that I needed it all for what it was used for, so it disappeared. It disappeared. But Another thing that really helps when it comes to mental health, check in, especially if you're an empath or a spiritualist around this time, is journaling. Now, you can dream work, everybody knows to really just write down your dreams and, try not to decode them. But journaling actually helps too. You can always really sit with yourself and get your thoughts together just by writing down things or ideas, because you never know that could be something that can help you at the end of the day. Is journaling. So that's one of the things that can help. And going to some of your deities. A great, a perfect deity that I usually go to. Uh, I won't even say deity. A saint that I usually work with is Saint Clara. Well, for one thing, she'll come to you in your dreams, and you'll know because it'll usually deal with what you're trying to figure out, and that'll usually either be a solution or a warning that she'll give you. She deals with a lot of white, um, and I was talking about her earlier, and I'm glad I kind of thought about it, but dealing with a lot of the men, like the head, what I'm saying, the crown chakra, um, and basically coming to terms with reality. Another saint that I usually work with when it comes to the mental is Saint Dipna. Dip, if I'm saying her name right. But usually she's another saint that deals with the mental or working with things of the mind or getting clarity on things. Saint Dipna. I don't now y'all don't hold me on how to spell her name. I could really have it wrong, but it's Saint Dipna. If I'm saying it right. But she's another great saint that usually works well with people that have afflictions with the mental health. So yeah, so as we're leading into the colder months, I just wanted to let this video out and let people know that for one, you're not alone. Two, whatever you're feeling, embrace it because it'll be something that you'll be able to look back on. And once you heal through that process, you'll be able to understand why you was led to that situation and how that can help others in your life. You see what I'm saying? So meditation, another way to help you dealing with the mental health. Um, certain crystals, you know, meditating with certain crystals, mantras, affirmations, um, going to your ancestors. You know what I'm saying? That's crucial because our ancestors are in our DNA. Our DNA. And, 9 times out of 10, if you're dealing with it, they probably dealt with it before they transitioned. So that's kind of like it's nothing new under the sun, but it will be helpful to really just start doing more ancestral work. Um, there's a book that I would read. I think it's called Ancestor Veneration. I forgot the name of the lady that made it, but I think she's big on ancestor veneration, and she kind of goes. The book is, I think it's called Ancestral Veneration, and it kind of goes in depth with how to deal with your ancestors on a more personal level, and how to start reconnecting yourself with that with your folks. Around the time that I was more I guess you could say more depressed, or when I realized that I had to do things more on a shadow work basis, is when you know that your ancestors start coming to you in dreams. And I'll never forget one particular ancestor of mine. She came to me, and as I was waking up, I remember I was saying, "I'm not ready. I'm not ready." And this was actually dealing with the fact that I had to move. But um, basically, that was just her letting me know that it was okay, that you can do it. You can triumph from this situation. You just have to believe in yourself, and you just have to do it. And that was like I said, this was last year. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I was in the bed, and I remember just, for some reason, it was like basically she was over me. And as she was over me, she was telling me about how it was time for me to make a change or make this particular decision. And as I was waking up, I was crying, and I was, on the mental level, I was saying I'm not ready, or, it's hard, or she was giving me basically like, I know what you're going through, but you can do it. So going to your ancestors when it comes to, even as a mental health check-in, is one of the greatest things that you can possibly do on a healing basis. And this is something that you'll probably have to keep up with the rest of your life, honestly, because healing is a lifetime. You know what I'm saying? So as you begin to learn the cycles of the earth, you will, as above, so below. You will start to learn the cycles of your own personal day-to-day life. You know what I'm saying? It took me a while, but I kind of got the gist of my own cycles. And, as moving forward on a positive note, as I'm gearing up for the colder season, um, there's a lot of more that I'm doing to make sure that I keep myself more happy, more on a quieter level. That way, if anything comes, I'll be a lot more prepared and just try to think things on a it really is. So I just wanted to leave this video up for y'all and give y'all a little bit of just a helpful reminder, as the seasons are changing, the things, on Earth are, kind of leaning into it's another cycle. You're not alone. I love you. Mama Earth loves you. Your ancestors love you. And whatever you do with on a mental level, but going to a therapist usually helps. Going to a doctor. So yeah, hope I'm gonna leave this video up and people and y'all have a beautiful and blessed Wednesday. Peace.